I'm looking at a few of them that we are going to be asking him. The introduction of a significant economic presence tax. What is that? You've heard about it. Increase in VAT scope, imposition of 16% VAT on air tickets and the sales, and the increase on the park and tour operators charges. There's a proposed VAT, there's a proposed removal of taxes on that. And apart from that, there's a housing levy shift deductions that they're proposing. It becomes part of the gross. And of course, there's a lot of public distrust regarding the implementations because there's no proper stipulated time for this. I'll be putting all those to the CS in just a bit. But I'd like to show you some proposals on the excise duty tax at a glance. So the telephone and internet data services accessible value at 15% moved to 20%. Fees charged for money transfer services 15% all the way to 20%. Betting 12.5% on the amount stakes to 15%. Apart from that, gaming 12.5% up to 15%. Prize competition also 15%. Betting up another 15%. Fees charged by digital lenders, 20%, but there's no new rate that has been proposed on this. And finally, there's fees charged on advertisements, on television, on alcohol, beverages, betting, gaming, lotteries, and prize competition. It's at 15%, but they're proposing, which is my favorite here, that there's an introduction of excise duty on advertisements on the internet or social media, touching on this: alcoholic beverages, betting, gaming, lotteries, and of course, prize competition. Now, the question has always been, why is it that they tax the TV stations and then I go online and I can watch them for free? So it's a good discussion tonight, and I'd like to begin with something that is very close to you and something that the CS himself brought up. And CS, thank you for staying on. This is about the pending bills before we go to taxes, because it's one of the reasons that Kenyans think the cost of living can be affordable. The power to spend money can at least be restored and put back in Kenyans' hands because their purchasing power has been grossly eroded by what you mentioned, the levies, the taxes, and of course the other issues. So I'd like to begin with the pending bills because it's about 600 billion, just under 600 billion, the one that the committee that verifies the bills has approved. So the first thing is there were 13 points, CS. You were not part of the Kenya Kwanza government at that time, but number 12 for the president prioritized pending bills. That is one. In June of 2022, the president himself said that they raised 500 billion through bonds and bills to pay the pending bills by December of the same year that he was inaugurated. On 6th of March still, 2023, the National Assembly Bill of 2023 put 60 billion on supplementary to go into payment of the pending bills. That was only 60 billion, March 2023. Same June 2023, audit committee gave their first report. November 2023, while launching the committee, they said that the bills will be paid within the financial year 2023-2024. That happened in November of last year. In December 29th, precisely, there was a commitment again by PS Chris Kipto, your PS, that pending bills will be paid by February of 2024. 5th of July, on 2024, after the Gen Z and everything, the president during the Twitter space also committed that he had ordered your predecessor, Njuguna Ndung'u, to drop every development and prioritize the payment of pending bills. And again, on the 8th of July, following what the president said on the 5th, UPS sent a memo also to Parliament indicating that pending bills should be paid. That was, I think, the last commitment. You have come out, I think, last week on Friday and said that the issue of pending bills is a big thing, and once it's paid, there will be money in people's pockets. My question is, why is it so difficult, CS, to pay pending bills, to put money in the pockets of Kenyans?
Two reasons, actually three. Number one, we must understand where we have come from. Ken, when this government came into office, I want to make an observation that the pending bills, that the budget, the fiscal space was so constrained. You are coming into office with a budget deficit of 925 trillion.
Billion.
I mean billion.
Billion, yeah.
It is not a walk in the park. It is not easy. And I will tell you that, remember, when this government came into office, the budget deficit was going to almost 7% of the GDP. Now, that has to be lowered. Even before you think of paying the pending bills, you must deal with the budget deficit. So, in my view, I think the government could have been overambitious when the Kenya Kwanza government was overambitious when they came into office, of thinking that they could retire all the pending bills at a go or within a very short time. It was not practical. It is still not practical. Why I say so is because with that fiscal space, and you also have, the country must run, the government must run, people must earn salaries, people must, there are recurrent expenditures, even development, you cannot stop development completely. So I think the government was a bit ambitious, but efforts have been taken, and that is why the government took deliberate efforts now to reduce the budget deficit and free the fiscal space to be able to deal with the historical pending bills. Okay? So that has been coming down. If you look at the strategy that was adopted, first the government moved the fiscal deficit from 6.7% in the financial year 2022-23 to 5.2% in 23-24. And now this year, the government was too ambitious to move that percentage or budget deficit to 3.8, and that is what brought a bit of disquiet as a result of what Kenyans perceived as overtaxation. Now, we are at 4.3. That is what we are going to realize this year. And the next year, we will move it to 3.8. We have deliberately decided to be more realistic and reduce the budget deficit in a structured manner so that in the next 2-3 years, we should be at 3%. Okay. Then now you can easily retire pending bills at a go. But now, we can't wait that long.
Yes, because when I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, how long will we wait?
So that is where I wanted to take you.
Yes.
The pending bills that we have today, the ones that were submitted to the committee was 663 billion shillings. Mm-hmm. The latest report that I was given, a preliminary report, they had reviewed out of this 663, they had only reviewed 408 billion worth of pending bills.
Okay.
Out of this, they cleared some, about 148 billion have been cleared. Some, they're still asking questions and all that. Looking at it, we may end up with pending bills of about 500 billion in total.
That can be verified.
That can be verified and confirmed and authenticated, and so it should be paid. So the strategy is this. We have adopted a strategy as a government to deal with the two types of pending bills. There is the pending bills under the road sector, which have completely stalled the road construction in the country and which has affected the growth of the construction industry. Mm-hmm. If you look at the contribution of construction industry to our GDP, it has gone down drastically. Why? Because the road constructions across the country have stalled. So we have about 175 billion shillings to pay under the road sector. Out of this, at least 36 billion worth of road investment. But again, this, you can reduce this 36 billion divided by about 2 because this is the value of the roads, which are, some have not been completed. So the pending bill out of the 36 could be about 18 billion.
Yeah.
Okay? So that takes us to about 157 billion. This 36 billion, we got the funding from the China Development Bank to deal with some 15 rural roads which were identified, which were being constructed by Chinese contractors, but under GOK funding. So we got a concessionary loan from the China government through the China Development Bank. So you take off that from the pending bills, half of it, because half of it could be the parts of the roads that have not been done yet, the sections that have not been done yet. The 157 that we have to deal with, we have we are planning to raise funds by using the road maintenance levy, and we project to raise. We are thinking of even raising 175 when we finally finish, but the money that is likely to come forth in the shortest time is about 80 billion or 70.
When is this plan supposed to take place?
Actually, it can even come as early as December this year.
Okay.
But you see, this is something that you have to do within the law and follow the structure. We have a bank that is doing the arrangement and all that. So it is something that is still being worked on, but we have been given indication that we can raise funds by securitizing, because we are collecting about 32 billion shillings per year on the extra 7 shillings which is being levied on field maintenance levy. The 18 shillings as a formula, you remember there's a part of it which is 22% that goes to the constituencies. There's another 10%. So this, if we get, will retire. So the road sector is like we have a plan already.
A plan, okay.
Now, out of the 500 billion, then you remain with about 340 or so billion. What my thinking and the thinking of the Treasury at the moment is to agree on a formula like what we call a stimulus package in the next budget, because we can't do it now. Ken, what we can do at the moment is that the law should be respected, which says that pending bills will form the first charge in the next financial year.
But the law was not respected when it says that you cannot give this you cannot allow people to even get on the ground to start working without the money being budgeted for. So the question is...
No, the monies were budgeted for. Ken.
But they were not spent for this purpose.
Yes, that is why I'm saying it is a long history. The history is this, that the budgeting process has not been realistic. So we budget for money that...
You don't have.
Yes.
But that's
so
how
you see, the money is spent.
Yeah.
The accounting officers who committed us into these kinds of expenditure, a lot of it. And of course, I would go to the road sector and will tell you the problem. But if you look at other procurements, you'll find the budget was there.
Okay.
Hardly would you find an entity committing money where there is no budget. The problem is now the exchequer was not there because there was no money.
But I see other sectors that you're saying, goods, for example, number of claims are 32,000. This is according to the May report of the government strategy on verification and clearance of pending bills, domestic arrears. That's just the domestic arrears. So this was the May report. I don't know which one you have, but number of claims in goods alone was 32,000 CS. Total 117 billion. Yes. Goods alone. Now you've just said services alone were 38,000 number of claims, 38,705, 147 billion in claims. Works you've spoken about, 202 billion, 2,278 claims, which is the list here. Labor related is 104 billion. Labor related, total 571. So other sectors that are not even tied, they still have.
No, that is a summary of all the sectors.
Yeah, summary of,
so if you add that figure, you will come almost to 663.
Okay.
I have the
latest one
here, which was supplied to me as an interim report by the committee. And let me just...
From May, because this is the May one.
No, I'm giving you the one for October.
October, the latest.
Yeah, the latest.
To 600.
So it's, the total is 663
okay, 6 billion. Okay.
Now, what I am saying is that the other pending bills, we also have to have a strategy. You talked about people committing. Yes, the budget is provided, but there is no funding. And you remember, Ken, consistently, we have been under collecting revenue, yet we project so much. And so you allow people to spend without money. On roads, I will tell you another reason. On roads, for example, Ken, you will realize that a road that costs, say, 2.1 billion, this road will be constructed in 3 financial years, for example. If you divide 2.1 by 3, that should give you 700.
About 700
million. So at bare minimum, every year you should budget for this road at 700 million. But what happens is we get 210 million, which is 10%, and start the road.
Mobilization fee.
And start the road. Once that road is started,
there's no
we
money.
look for another road and start another one.
Instead of finishing
and there is no money to finish that one. There's no money to finish another. So we are not doing what we call the multi-year budgeting properly to know how many projects should we start and when is the end date for the same or completion date. So the planning process has been faulty.
Yeah.
How do we onboard projects to the budget? And that is one of the things that I'm working on, to make sure that we link planning to budgeting. Because without that, you'll not get it
We
right.
have the same problem.
And then once a project is budgeted for, then we look at exchequer releases. Exchequer releases will only be realistic if we have realistic revenue projections.
Yeah.
So again, revenue projection must be realistic. So there are a number of reasons why over the years we have been accumulating these bills.
Is it because of the type of budgeting we have, and you think zero budgeting will cure most of these problems?
A lot of it, that is why we have gone zero.
Okay.
Because we want you to now tell us, Ken, if you want us to give you this money for this financial year, what exactly
are you doing
with it?
Yeah.
And is it realistic? If you are starting a project of 10 billion and you are asking us 500 million, we will ask you, how then will you complete this project, and what are the timelines, so that we curtail and stop some of these unrealistic budgeting processes, which end up leading us to a situation where we are either over borrow money, and which puts us in more problem, or even where we don't now end up completing the projects that become white and
I guess with what you have told me, and even trying to raise money for the works could be earliest in December. So the people with pending bills who are hoping and relying on the statements from the President and Treasury, what are you telling them tonight? That you're not likely to be paid the pending bills this year?
No, I'm not saying they're not. You know, we are also paying some bills as we speak. Even the road sector, there was a 59 billion
that was paid.
That we had. This 59 billion, Ken, I'll tell you, it's being released, and it is settling mostly the pending bills. Again, on the roads, there is some 8, now it's going to be 12 billion that we have enhanced the budget with. It is mostly going to pending bills to jumpstart. In fact, many roads now, we are paying the contractors pending bills so that they can get back to the roads.
What about service
So we are
goods
continuing,
and labor?
but I'm just being realistic that this is not something that is going to take a very short time. What is important is for us to come up with a strategy, which we are going to come up with immediately this result. The report of the committee is released. We are going to devise a strategy. If we have 100 billion to pay, we may decide that up to this amount of pending bills, if you are owed up to say 500,000 or 5 million or 10 million, we pay you in full. And then the others with bigger bills, we prorate and pay you in 2 or 3 financial years. What is important is to show commitment and pay. Because if we just leave these people, some of them, by the way, have demanded payment for even 7 years.
5, 6, 7 years. I know that for a fact. Some have even died without getting their bills paid.
And a lot of some of these bills are penalties and interest and fees that we are going to negotiate. We know they also borrowed money from the banks, and the banks need payment. But if we sit down with these vendors and suppliers and contractors and we tell them, yes, we owe you 900 million, out of which 600 million is the principal sum. And there is 300 million here, we can negotiate. We can give you, say, 50% of it, so that we also reduce, because we are in a situation that is unusual. I see so many court cases.
I see so many court cases if you go that direction, CS.
No. It's not forceful. It's about discussion. I'm telling you, instead of denying and starving you of liquidity for a long time, and the government wants to continue doing business with you, out of this interest that you are charging us, can you waive a part of it, and so that we are able to clear your bill and get you back to business? Because what we want is to get our people back to business and get money in the economy.
Yes. Is it realistic? I thought there was a supplementary bill that will be in Parliament before they go on recess that could very much avail money by December. People go for holiday with money in their pocket.
You know, again, I think people are misunderstanding the tax laws proposals. Which one are you talking about? The tax laws amendment bills?
No. I thought there was a supplementary that could have paid some of the pending bills.
You're asking about supplementary budget?
Yes.
We haven't proposed any supplementary
There's
budget.
no supplementary.
But you see, supplementary budget does not create money. Supplementary budget is just rearranging the budget.
Yes.
And if you look at our budget, the budget that was passed after the supplementary budget number 1, there is very little legroom, Ken, to really change. Where do you cut? Which ministry? It was the bare minimum, even in operations, in the current expenditure. So thinking that we can again now have another budget which would put money into paying of the pending bills, it's not realistic unless now we raise a little.
Let me ask you, what the government did with, for example, the Eurobond was going back to the market, get some money, and as a result, we sorted part of the debt that we had. We're now moved from about 82%, we're about 67% right now because of the payment, that single act. Can't we prioritize the same way we prioritize our external debt to pay our domestic debt? For example, these people in the service industry, goods, labor, for example, why should there be a pending bill CS on labor?
You see, Ken, there is a difference between retiring the Eurobond and paying the pending bills. You know, retiring the Eurobond was basically, we took another Eurobond to retire.
To retire, yes.
And again, you know, you have to operate within some fiscal framework, okay? And the fiscal framework we have today is external debt is 355 billion for this year. And out of that money, there is the IMF component, which is for general budgetary support. It's the only money that is flexible.
Okay.
The others, like the World Bank funding, is tied to certain deliverables that you have to put them in some, to provide certain services, maybe health sector. We call them the DPOs. So that is not money that is free for you to come and pay Ken Yungu because you owe Ken something. And there are others which are bilaterals. Again, these ones are project-specific borrowings. Yeah. So the only legroom that you have is with the IMF, which only because it's the multilateral which gives you general budgetary support. The others
very specific.
Very specific. Yeah, maybe African Development Bank can also give you a bit of some legroom. But I will tell you that most of the borrowings, the loans that we take, are project specific. The domestic borrowing is also for general budgetary support, but a lot of domestic borrowing is to restructure, is to pay back the loan. You are borrowing
from
to
Peter
retire.
To pay Paul.
Yes. So you are retiring a loan. So out of, like, in a week, when we take 27 billion, you'll find out of this 27 billion, only 7 billion is available for us. The remaining 20 is gone. So it is not that easy. But I will tell you that if we remain calm, if I may use that word, we are going to strategically make sure that we retire these pending bills. One thing that we must do is now to stop accumulation of further pending bills. I am likely to, even today I was addressing the procurement professionals. They had this annual event in Mombasa. And I told them that from April, they may not be allowed to procure. So they need to organize their procurement in a way that would sorry for that. They should organize their procurement in a way that would allow them to procure at least 2 months before the end of the financial year, so that if we have the money, and which we should, then we settle all the pending bills within this year, even though we have accrual accounting principle that we are adopting, but still we want to be disciplined so that we don't carry forward more bills that would subject us to unnecessary pressure from the suppliers of goods and services and vendors. Yeah.
Waziri, I'd like to talk about now the tax laws, because I think a lot of people who are hoping that they will get some good news that by end of the month they could be getting some money. It's not happening this year, especially on pending bills. So I'd like to talk about the tax laws. And
you know, Ken, I don't know why you want to keep on
because there's a lot of
I have said,
Kenyans, yes.
Ken, I've said,
yes,
we are even paying pending bills today.
Okay.
First, the law is still the PFM Act that pending bills should form the first charge. So the latest bills that are not subject of verification should be paid, and they are being paid. But then, even those which are verified will be settled. we are starting to settle them this year. So it is not that Kenyans should wait until I don't know when. The process is kicking off immediately. It is only that we, at the moment, don't have enough resources to retire all the
500
That is
million.
what I'm saying.
So, as I leave this question, who are your priorities
in terms of
settling the bill?
Now, for the road sector, what we did was we looked at those roads that are nearing completion. And have stalled because of the pending bills. So for these roads to bring value to the economy, we are injecting money specific to those roads so that the contractors go back and complete. So that is our priority. The second one will now be looking at categorization of the bills and just seeing how much we owe you. Those with the smaller pending bills we can clear, but those with the bigger ones we can prorate. So that at least each one of us or each of these vendors or suppliers or contractors have something to make them remain strong in business.
Let's talk about the tax laws amendment bill, and how many of these amendments undergo public participation? Why was this necessary to have such a robust public participation in the amendment bills that you do? Because Kenyans, perhaps the first question should be, are you sneaking in some of the provisions of the Finance Bill 2024 through this amendment?
You know, Ken, in Kenya you can't sneak anything. I think that is something that should also be very clear. Kenyans are so intelligent, so wise, and these processes go through robust debate. How do you sneak? What we are saying is there are certain provisions in the Finance Bill of 2024. We have brought them back. And by the way, Ken, there is nothing we are hiding here. Remember I mentioned, and I said it categorically, that when I was given this appointment, President Trudeau did not appoint a conman. I am not going to con Kenyans by telling them that no, there is nothing we have brought from the Finance Bill of 2024. I said during my vetting that there were so many good provisions in Finance Bill of 2024, but because the strategy adopted was wrong from day one, and that created resistance, which then led us to losing the entire bill. So we threw the baby with the bathwater. What I have brought back, I have tried using my team to get all the contentious, at least as much as possible, the contentious issues off the table. And bring those progressive provisions in the bill which I think are good for this country. And I can mention many of them.
Quite many of them.
I know that and that is why we have public participation. You were just about to ask me, why robust public participation? We were changing strategy. If once bitten, twice shy, Ken, you would be foolish enough if you are told this is the way to go, and then the following day
you go the same direction.
But
don't you think you've gotten a lot of backlash even with what you're trying to achieve with this public participation, the robust one? And Kenyans reacting?
But Ken, what is public participation? Public participation is to put on the table your proposals and have people comment on them.
But you hear what they say.
I'm explaining. If you only get accolades, if you only get praises, then it means that there is also a problem. Either the people have not read or have not understood you. People must always question policies. That is why we have public engagement. I am happy that for the first time, in my view, in a long period of time, that the issues that people have are very minimal with these bills. In fact, a lot of Kenyans are talking about what is not in these tax laws. They are talking about things that were removed. But the issues, and I will point them out, the issues that have been raised, and some of them we have acted on. You just talked about significant economic presence tax. What we were saying is there are certain businesses which are conducting, there's certain multinational businesses conducting business in this country, but they are not physically present here. Again, we must be alive to the fact that IT has made, that current technological advancements have made world a global economy and have made digital space the space to watch. In fact, if you stop taxing digital market and the platform, then there will be no taxes. People are not doing business the conventional way, where you have to carry goods and services to the market. Things are being, business is now being transacted differently. So we have also to tax the digital platform and digital market. Now, this significant economic presence, these people who are drawing income and revenue from our economy should pay their fair share of tax. At the moment, it was called this digital service tax, DST, at 1.5%. The global practice, and we have done a comparison, is that it is called significant economic presence tax elsewhere. So we have adopted that. We proposed 6% out of public engagement and discussions. And I had a meeting in my office with the digital players. And they clearly demonstrated to me that if you go to the US, it is 3%. And they gave the data. We have since proposed to the National Assembly to reduce the rate, that percentage, from 6 to 3% in concurrence with the Kenyans who are in this space. That is what we call public participation. And so, but this public participation is not an academic exercise. So the only place where there is a lot of concern and complaint was that. The second one is the issue of air ticketing.
Yes.
And which many of us are asking, Ken, if someone walks to the shop and buys a commodity, they pay a value-added tax. Why can't Ken Mijungu, who goes to take a flight from Nairobi to Kisumu,
add 16%,
pay VAT? Why can't Mbadi pay VAT? So that is the question we are asking. If you convince me that is a bad thing, then the parliament should drop it. But in my view, I think this is one of the reasons why we say we are not broadening the tax base. We are subsidizing certain segments of our economy to which we should not.
But
we should subsidize that segment of the economy where people are so desperate to survive. But we shouldn't just subsidize everything. Remember, air ticketing, by the way, up to 2013 was not being taxed. But 2013 to 2014, it was being taxed.
At what percentage?
At 16%.
Yes.
But then it went back because of the complaints. The same complaints we are seeing today. But should we exempt air ticketing to VAT? The jury is out there for Kenyans to decide. The other one is this. Tourism, the park entry fees.
Yes.
And I will tell you this. By the way, up to 2016, the park entry fees was subject to VAT. But we removed it because Minister Balala lobbied so hard.
Wanted to spur the growth in this
But again,
sector.
we have listened to the people in the tourism sector, and they are talking of, we are digressing. Instead of providing these VAT exemptions, we should help them get more tourists from elsewhere to come and give them more revenue. I don't want to use some of the terminologies they use, like they say they want more value. That is their word, not mine, tourists. But again, the question you want to ask is, if it is being taxed in Tanzania at 18%, then why shouldn't we? Because we have done that comparison. I know the CS, my friend Rebecca, is really opposed to this, and we are discussing it, and I think Parliament will be...
Because it's likely to affect the numbers.
I don't
just like the digital marketplace tax.
I don't think it will, because our rates for domestic tourism is still very low. If the park is 400 shillings and you add 16%, how much is that? About 40 shillings or 50 shillings. Now, but I leave it to Parliament. So I'm just pointing out the areas where I think there have been some little concern here and there. Yes.
Okay. ISPAC actually said that there is no clarity as to when this will take effect, and they are reading ambiguity in these proposals. How do you respond to that?
That there is no provision in the Act when they would take effect.
Yes.
But you see, if that Parliament can deal with, can provide effective date. Actually, it is usually the Parliament that does
provides the date.
You can put it in the Act. You can put it in the bill, but Parliament. But remember, these bills have been published by Parliament. So ours also draft and give to Parliament. The Parliament can still decide and put effective dates, and to me that is not an issue. But again, if effective date is not specified, then the date of assent becomes the effective date. So the day the president will append his signature, then becomes the effective date.
Okay.
Which we don't
could be
know.
6 months after it was thrown out, right? That is the law, that it can only be introduced 6 months after.
Which law was thrown out?
The finance.
That was finance bill.
Yes.
This is not finance
but
bill.
It's amending the finance bill.
No.
It's amending. You just
By the
said
way, can I tell you something? Can I tell you something?
Yes.
You know that there's that thing like this finance bill is also, finance bill is an omnibus bill, amending various statutes. So there's really no act that you can put your finger on and say this is finance bill. This is Finance Act. Even us talking about Finance Act of 2023, it is an act of parliament which has amended several bills.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, even if it was the case, by the way, Ken, go to the standing orders of National Assembly, and I think in the Senate, you can reintroduce a bill before 6 months, even 2 days later, with the approval of the Speaker.
Okay.
So that provision is already cured. So these bills, first, are not finance bill. You can't introduce finance bill again in the year. These are completely different bills. One is tax procedures, the other one is tax laws amendment bill, and one is public finance management.
So they're totally fresh.
Totally fresh.
Totally fresh. Okay.
And Ken, if I got time, I would tell you, if I was Kenyans, the middle class, and even the lower level class, these are provisions to support. And I have a lot of evidence to give. Apart from these 2 or 3 issues that are being raised, what have people raised about these bills?
LSK, for example, is talking about the 10% penalty for non-compliance. They have an issue with that.
Why should they have an issue?
They have, because you're charging 10% for non-compliance.
First of all, Ken, non-complying with the paying tax, unless you have a...
This is, I think, for withholding tax, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but the question is, if you don't comply, if we allowed Kenyans, anybody in any jurisdiction, if you allow people to decide not to comply, would you even collect tax?
But don't you think that 10%?
Non-compliance, actually it should be more. Non-compliance is criminal. It should not be celebrated. Actually, we should not even legislate a percentage. It is a criminal offense if you don't comply. So people should comply. That is the bare minimum. And that is why you find a few Kenyans are paying taxes, and we are so many. Because some people are not complying. And then you want to treat them with kids' gloves? I don't think that.
Don't you think, Waziri, some of these proposals, looking for, just at the reactions from different sector players, they're very radical that you're proposing. Do you think they sit well? Or John Mbadi has just come and you've decided to be so radical with the proposals?
Can be fair to me. Let me just ask. If I brought very radical proposals, I would own up.
Yeah.
But the proposals that we have brought are not radical. I wish you could point out to me the radical ones. Actually, the radical ones are helpful. Can I give you examples?
Start with the deductions that you're now putting at gross. What was the rationale?
No.
For the remittances from companies, what is the rationale for the deductions, basing it on gross, especially for the SHA, affordable housing?
You know, Ken, I will not allow you to misinterpret my bill.
You're here.
This is the problem that I have. And by the way, this is likely to be with us for a while, because Kenyans now view taxation as an evil.
As a punishment.
As a punishment.
And it's because they don't get value for it. That's the only reason.
I understand, and we must work on it.
Yes, they don't get value from it.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
Contrary to what you are saying, the reverse is true.
Explain.
I'll explain. Look at SHA and look at housing levy. Presently, SHA, you are deducted 2.7% of your gross salary. That is in another law. It's not in my bill. It's already there. You can claim, you can not claim, you can rightfully say that it is reducing your disposable income.
Exactly, yeah.
Then 1.5, but let me just deal with SHA. So this 2.75% is deducted on gross. If you are earning 100,000, 2,750 of it
goes to SHA.
Goes to SHA.
Yeah.
And then again, when it comes to pay as you earn, it is subjected on 100,000. Okay?
Not minus.
So it means you are paying tax on SHA, which is already deducted and has gone to government.
Exactly.
My proposal is curing that. Even though in a small way, I am saying once you are deducted SHA, remove it from your 100,000, and then now tax is subjected on 97,500.
As your gross?
Yes, or 250.
As your gross at that time?
As the gross now.
Okay.
So the same with the housing levy. Okay? So first of all, remove them to tax. Currently, you are removing, you are taxing them, and then again removing. So you are double taxing. That is what we call double taxation. So what the proposal I'm bringing is to help you get some little money back to your pocket. It is not taking away. And that is the misunderstanding about some of the proposal. It is, instead of looking at it, that is helping. I will give you another example of the diapers. We have presently diapers and baby sanitary pads. I mean, sanitary pads and diapers, baby diapers, sorry, are not taxable. But the materials used to produce them are. Now, we are bringing a provision to correct that and say that even the material, the input, the raw materials used are also supposed to be exempt from tax. Then when someone sees it in our schedule, they think we are now taxing. It is misinterpretation. We are instead saying, apart from not taxing diapers and sanitary pads, don't tax the raw materials used in the manufacture or production of the same. So those are
clearly progressive. But then, CS, why do you think there's that misinterpretation? Because
of the past. You know, Ken,
distrust?
Distrust.
Yes.
That is a fact. And that is why I am working very hard. And we have agreed as a government to work very hard to be clear in our communication so that we convince and win back the confidence of Kenyans. You see a lot of things. In fact, even some opposition to government programs is not because the programs are bad. Sometimes they have not been understood, and the default setting is reject. So if you look at John Mbadi's proposals, the Treasury's proposals, a lot of them, in fact, almost everything is progressive. I'll give you another one. What I'm saying in these proposals, Ken, today, is if you retire on health grounds today, before reaching 65 years, you know, if you retire at 60, your pension will be taxed, subjected to tax. And monthly pension will be subjected to tax until you reach 65. The same with if you retire on medical grounds. So what I'm saying is, if you retire on medical ground or you reach your retirement age, get your pension in full. Because you have served this country, you have offered your service, there is no reason to leave 30% again back to government. We can do without that money. That is what I'm saying.
But don't you think it's giving on one hand and taking on the other hand?
Like which one? Just tell me the provision. Just tell me, Ken, and I have challenged many people, including the media. Cite in my proposed amendments those provisions which you think is taking away money from your pockets. We have talked about digital space.
Digital market.
The digital market.
Do you think that potentially also discourages the youth who don't have jobs and are trying to create money through other means, and then they're in the digital market?
But you see, this is not about people who use the platform. I know some people may attempt.
Creators of the platform.
Yes, some people may attempt to pass it over to the consumers, which many business people do. But we are talking about those who are making
the creators.
The creators and those who are owning the platform.
Okay.
And by the way,
that is clear. That is clear.
Ken, let's also face it. If you're using some infrastructure, like if you're using road today, wouldn't you pay for its maintenance? So is the internet. It's an infrastructure. Don't you think
you need to pay for it?
We need to pay. So what we may need to agree on is, are we overtaxing you, or it is reasonable? And by the way, I understand Kenyans when they say that this tax rate is high. Let us discuss, let us agree. If the rate is high, who am I to force it down the throats of Kenyans?
Okay. I want to ask you about a simple one, the turnover tax. I know it's not here, but I want to ask you, why can't we make turnover tax sector-based? I'll give you an example. For example, if you're going to buy a packet of milk, something that is very close to me, right?
Yeah.
You're buying a packet of milk as a retailer for 50 shillings. You sell it for 55 shillings, right? The turnover tax is about 1 shilling and 30 cents or something. Then you remain with basically about 3 shillings and something for all your expenses. Can't we make it so sector specific or uniform so that it's not based on commodities that are very vital for Kenyans?
No, you know...
If I'm talking about a business person now.
You know, turnover tax is to me almost like an advance tax. Okay? It is just saying that, you know, some businesses are difficult to tax.
To tax, yeah.
Because getting them into the... And continuously, you know, monitoring the tax, the cost of administering tax should be as low as possible, as cheap as possible. Mm-hmm. So turnover tax was brought in because of that sector, which is very difficult to get to even compute, even getting an accountant to work around your figures to see how much profit you have made. So instead of doing all that, then we look at some threshold, yeah, and say between this threshold and this threshold, you don't have to pay, just pay one-off tax, which is called the turnover tax. Those who are below the threshold, which are the majority of the small businesses, are not even subjected to that tax. And those who are above, who can afford the accountants and all that, then are taxed normally and in a conventional way.
Okay, so
but these are thoughts that can be bounced and brought about, and for further discussion.
I want to end, but I want to ask you about e-procurement.
Yes.
What you intend to cure with it, and does it bother you from where you sit now that you're in government, how people do business with the government? For example, why should I buy a ream of papers at 850 and sell it to the government at 10,000 shillings? How are you curing this? Because that's where people do business with the government. One pen, 10 bob, sell it for 200 to the government.
That is true.
And what are you doing especially for that? And how is e-procurement, for example, going to cure that for you?
Thank you for asking that question. Actually, that is one of the issues that we are facing as a country. You find the same building, the same commodity, and the 5th floor and 7th floor are selling or have been bought at different prices. We need standardization of prices, and that is 2 ways of doing it. Our budgeting tool, the zero-based budgeting, which we are putting IFMIS, is bringing standardization. So that if, for example, a ministry is telling us they want so much on stationery, and they are giving us the types of stationery and the quantity and the pricing, it will be captured in the entire system of government so that we see why is it that this agency A is buying it at this. So that is one of the reasons why zero-based budgeting is very critical, and the tool that we have supplied. Number 2, on e-procurement will cover from budgeting, budgets, to procurement, to payment, and to use of goods and services. So what we are saying here is the budget must be linked to procurement. One line, so that you don't break it. That there is a budget here, you look at it with your eyes, and then you go to procurement, do it with your pen and paper, and then move to payment. It is disjointed. We want a system, and it is possible. I have worked in I was a head of a finance department way back, in fact, more than 17 years ago, Ken. And I remember items which were bought, when they were paid, it clears in the system. You'll never see them again. So there would be no way that you can again pay the same thing. So we want to see where a budget is provided for furniture. It gets to procurement. It is the system that transmits it or transmits it. And then when you pay, payment is made, it completely is knocked off the system, and then we follow it to when it was used. The system should follow it to see if we actually bought the item, or it is air that we bought. Because you have heard of air being bought.
Sold and bought,
so those are the things that e-procurement would sort out. If we have this system rolled out efficiently and effectively, it should be able to sort out some of this.
As I let you go, I need to know what is the overall goal with what you're trying to do. What do you intend to achieve at the end of the day? Will you create that balance that Kenyans feel at this point? This is fairer to us because we participated in it and we are part of it. Or you're trying to cure an incident that happened, that there was a rejection of proposal. So let's just find a cure. Where will you draw that balance at the end of the day for you as the CS Treasury?
First of all, Ken, you must learn. Learning is allowed. So you must learn from the past. And we have learned from the past, all of us collectively. Some of us were watching from the other side and celebrating the whole thing when there was uprising. And so we said, it is good for them because they didn't communicate well. Now that I am within that system and I've been brought there to do things differently, the best I can do to help the president realize his objective and his vision is to do things differently but progressively. You know, you can do things differently but negatively. So I want to do things differently but progressively. So we started. When we communicated, first we asked Kenyans, what are your views? And then they brought the views. But then we went ahead and published these proposed amendments with explainer. We just didn't throw the proposed legislation to the public. We told them, this one means this is the proposal, what it means is this, and this is what we intend to achieve. So we have allowed Kenyans now to engage and debate and talk to us, especially those who have read the bills and are talking facts. We have picked those ones and we are proposing amendments, and National Assembly also followed by another round of public participation. Will I also tell you, even in terms of our budgeting process, we are doing it completely differently.
Okay.
Next week on Monday, I'll be in Mombasa with the youth, just to discuss the proposed budget.
Okay.
I want to engage them, I want to hear them, so that when we come to putting the figures together, at least the executive has heard the people. We cannot just leave this assignment to the National Assembly. After all, these proposals belong to the executive, not to the legislature.
Did you learn anything from the public participations?
I learned something.
What did you learn?
That there is very little or limited trust
in the government.
Yeah. And that we must restore. And this is as a result of, let me not call it lack of communication, but proper communication. We need to communicate properly. And that is why I don't get annoyed when people ask me even questions about these tax laws, which are not in the bills. I just listen to you and respond to you that that is not with among the proposals that we have brought. And those which make sense, like I've told you about this, the significant economic presence, we have lowered it. We have proposed lowering it to 3%.
From 6%.
To comply with what is obtaining across the globe.
Okay. All right. I have to ask you this question. Do you have the goodwill from the president to work? Do you feel you belong, having come from the other side?
Ken, first, I think the president was very clear in his mind when he appointed me. I think he decided before he appointed me the person he wanted in this office. I will tell you, it is now 3 months, and I have no complaints. I have no regrets. The job is tough, I know, because there are a lot of issues to deal with. The economy has not been doing very well in terms of certain aspects of it. The fundamentals are not so bad. So when I took up the assignment and looked at the fundamentals and looked at the possibility of even making better the fundamentals, we are working very hard. And by the way, I think I speak to the president almost daily. In fact, in a day, sometimes we even speak 5 times. So one thing that I also like the president for is that he wants to understand everything. And you cannot know everything, but you need to listen to the experts and get what they're saying. We speak almost daily. In fact, there are times we have daily meetings. So how then would one support you beyond that?
Okay. What you're saying is exactly the problem.
How would your boss support you more than
exactly
that?
What you're saying is a problem, because there's this notion that everything in this country is being run from State House. And now you speak to the president 5 times
I don't think so. I don't think so. Understanding what is happening in your government is not running the government alone.
So again, you have the space.
Again, I want to tell you, Ken, he is the one who was voted by the people of Kenya. He must understand what is happening. Otherwise, he would be accused of negligence. How would you take it when the president wakes up one day, something has gone wrong, and then he says, I didn't know? How would you take it that I wasn't informed? Would he be a responsible leader? I don't think so. But what is important is whether the president listens.
Does he?
He does. And I've just explained to you. By the way, you know the kind of character I am. If the president was not listening, I would say the president is not listening to me. And so I have to make a choice. But the time that I've worked with the president, for the 3 months I've worked with President William Samoei Ruto, he has demonstrated to me that either he values what I say or is someone who always listens to everyone.
Do you have the space to make decisions as the CS? Because you're coming from a background of Azimio, and you have to implement a Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Do you have a space, or there's everyone who is telling you, this is how we take our manifesto, and you have to comply? Because again, I think there are risks you've taken in speaking sometimes, which I don't think, like opening up Treasury, is something that a lot of them will not do. But you've opened the Treasury to the extent that you allow us. I don't remember the last Treasury CS that had an interview. I don't. So while active in office.
So Ken, I think the people who are taking this route of arguments, what they want to hear is that Mbadi is being inhibited or being blocked from making decisions, is not operating, it doesn't have a free hand. It is the notion. When I got into this office, that is what I was told. And I'm reporting to you, Ken, that since I took up this assignment, if probably I will be stopped from working some future date, I will say it. But so far, I would tell you, Ken, I have got the kind of cooperation that one would need.
Okay.
And by the way, even opening the Treasury, did I seek for permission from anyone? No. The president has also just seen me conduct and he's urging me on and praising me and telling me we are ready. By the way, remember when we had this meeting with the taxpayers, the president was very clear, and he said it more than 4 times, that CS, and he called me by name, John, we will support you. And I have seen that support. In fact, he has asked me, what do you think we should do here? And I give my opinion. I also asked him, Your Excellency, what then do we do? So this is a consultation. The government is one. That government is headed by one person. Ours is to help him run the government. And I am doing my best.
Okay. CS, I have to let you go. 100 days in about 20. Roosevelt said, if you don't make impact in the first 100 days, you're not likely to make impact. What is the one thing that we should take home that in your 100 days or in the 89 days, because I think it's 89 days today, right? You have achieved since you are sworn in. Just briefly.
But you have just mentioned that I have opened up Treasury.
That's different.
You see, it is one of the most important things is to understand what your government is doing. Number 2, bring back confidence in the economy. And I think we have brought back confidence in the economy. Number 3, we have worked very hard together with Central Bank to make sure that we lower the rates by government borrowing rate coming down. The Treasury bills lending borrowing rate is coming down. I have just told you that I've cleared the rollout of e-procurement. So many things. I have cleared the zero-based budgeting. Do you know that for the first time Kenya is going to have accrual basis of accounting to manage our inventories, assets and liabilities? So a lot of things Ken have done in 89 days, which I probably should have done in 2 years. I'm doing in the first 100 days. I want the next step is now to help you and I to have money
in our pockets. Very important.
Yes.
And a good place to end our discussion tonight. CS, thank you so much for coming tonight and shedding light in a lot of these things and the proposals and amendments. Hopefully, Kenyans have been watching and they get to understand why these proposals are good for them. And as we leave, one story here that I think is very important.